Good afternoon, just after 2 o'clock, and Kyle Clark is joining me. And as we did yesterday, we're talking about wildfire in Colorado. I wanted to talk about this afternoon.
Yeah, this is a new fire that has popped up in the area around Lyons. You're getting a look at that fire now from Sky 9. We believe that fire is burning northeast of town in the vicinity of Eagle Ridge Road. This is a separate and apart fire from the Alexander Mountain fire, which has been burning now for 2 days in the foothills west of Loveland.
Yeah, obviously this is the situation that we've been dreading over this long, dry summer. The fire yesterday that got underway before noon just to the west of Loveland, and now this one north of Lyons, and you can see another very active plume of smoke climbing. You can also see some aircraft working in that area as well. At this point, that doesn't look to be doing any dropping, maybe just some scouting. No, there's the slurry. They do have aircraft that they've brought over to help. Some of these resources, maybe some of the resources that were already in the air over by Loveland at the Alexander Mountain fire.
Fortunate in that respect that they have air assets so close. The danger with this fire, as opposed to the Alexander Mountain fire, which is considerably larger in size but has yet to burn a building, is that that fire is in very close proximity to homes. You have Eagle Ridge Road that runs along the top of that forested ridge, and you have homes down on the bottom side of the ridge both ways. Smoke is blowing east, so that camera is looking west right now. Lyons is to the left side of your picture. As we kind of pan around, you might even get a look at the town there. So that is the town of Lyons down at the south end of the ridge. The fire's up north of there in an area that is dotted with a good number of homes.
We have seen active flame, and this fire's behavior already different than yesterday's, most notably in that plume is not really a smokestack. In this case, that smoke is actively drifting. It is moving wind-driven off to the east there. So the look we're getting at this fire certainly is alarming in that we are seeing much more of that feeding of the winds. And again, another slurry drop there as they try to work on the west side of that fire to try to keep it from climbing up. When they did put out the call, Kyle, you alluded to the homes nearby. They said they wanted to divert that air support from the Alexander Mountain fire, in this case, they do have structures they feel are immediately threatened.
And obviously, Boulder County and the rest of the Front Range knew that the fire danger was high today. Red flag warning. There's a lot of dry fuel out there. The winds are not extreme. Obviously, the temperature is very high, staying at 97 degrees at DIA right now, hotter in other parts along the Front Range. But there's an open burn ban today in Boulder County as well as tomorrow. There you see, boy, they are just right in close proximity to a home. It's very difficult to say on the far side of that house whether or not the flames have reached that house or whether they've been able to establish a perimeter. You just saw one of those single-engine aircraft go out in front, one of those seats that flew through the front of the frame. That's probably where the firefight is. Actually, you know what? I think we can see, Tom, that you can see the red from some of the slurry drops there along the far side of the house. My first thought was that those were flames, but I think that's just the red from the slurry.
Yeah, they are certainly aware of where they want to be putting that slurry. They know where these homes are, where the fire is, and they're doing their best to get on top of it as quickly as possible. There, unfortunately, we do see active flames, active burning. So this fire, again, you can see the wind is definitely more significant than it was yesterday. Yesterday, that smokestack climbed straight up off the Alexander Mountain fire. And this fire, it seems like it is being fed and pushed by those winds out of the west.
Yeah, and that looks to be a home that's lost there because you've got the structure of a brick chimney right in the middle of it. So chances are that's not a garage or a barn or an outbuilding. If it's got a brick chimney like that in the center of it, a number of vehicles that have also burned there. Right on the edge of the fire, you can see the crews on the ground there and some of the firefighting assets overhead. The issue is that there are a number of homes there in that area. This is on Eagle Ridge Drive, Eagle Ridge Road, pardon me. This is northeast of Lyons in Boulder County. This is well south of the Alexander Mountain fire. Another drop there from aircraft going overhead. And at this point, we have yet to see any work fighting this fire on the ground, but have seen at least 3 different identifiable aircraft working it.
This is an area, as is the case with the Alexander Mountain fire yesterday, where you have those planes dropping slurry, and the problem is, of course, that they have to go back and get more slurry, and it takes time for them to load up, make another drop, and continue to attack the fire as they try to prevent it from growing in certain directions. There you see a big drop right there. But those other planes that are dropping water, there are quite a few reservoirs around, and they've been able to take advantage of those without having to travel too far to reload and try to get water on the fire in some areas. But it's with these slurry drops, they're really trying to contain the direction that the fire will or will not eventually grow.
Yeah, they got Foothills Reservoir about 5-6 miles to the southeast of there, which you would think would have enough open access that they could get in if they wanted to drop water. We have not seen water drops yet. Obviously, this is a very aggressive and coordinated aerial firefight, as you mentioned, Tom, because of the assets that they already have positioned in the area for the Alexander Mountain fire to the north. I mean, I can't remember last time we were watching a fire and we saw 4 drops within a span of 4 minutes or so. So fortunate that those assets are there. Looks like already at least one home has been lost in this new wildfire that is burning near Lyons. We can show you an idea of the evacuations now, I believe, on a map. Yep, so here are your evacuation areas. And I'm actually going to stand up so I can go and take a closer look at it like you can on big TVs at home. So that is a fairly large evacuation area for the Alexander Mountain fire, which now includes the Masonville area. Yesterday, that was Drake down to the Dam store on US 34. And then to the south of there, you're going to see the second evacuation area, far smaller in size.
So when you talk about coordination, these aircraft are not just flying around. They have to be coordinated with one another. But then you also have the overarching coordination of all these assets. Where do they go? How do they use them? And we've been seeing this in the past where everybody wants all the assets they can get. But those assets that were working to the north near Loveland, now many have been diverted here down to Lyons because of those structures. But the amount of coordination it takes to fight a fire safely and to use the assets in their best manner possible, that's something that not only requires planning, but also people who've done this before, thinking about the best ways to attack these fires and how best to use those assets, because those first hours of fighting a fire can make all the difference.
I'm going to pull up a little bit more information about the evacuation area on this Boulder County fire. This is that second fire that we're watching outside of Lyons, to give you a little bit more information on the scope of the evacuation area. That last map was a little bit difficult to see. The evacuation area stretches from US 36 on the east side of Lyons. So think right across the street from Bone Park, and then it goes straight north along Eagle Ridge, and it goes straight north for what appears to be a mile or two outside of town, up over Indian Mountain, the north edge of that evacuation zone. I'm just going to zoom in on a road so I can pull it up for you. It's Dry Creek Drive and Chimney Hollow. So basically reaching up to like the Dry Creek and the Little Thompson River area. So this is an evacuation area, mandatory evacuation, northeast of Lyons, but the south end of that evacuation area does come into town, clear down to 36.
And that's part of the danger, is trying to forecast directions of fires. It's not all the wind that solely moves these fires. It's where the fuel is, and these fires can certainly go in directions that are not anticipated. So when you create an evacuation space, whether it's a mandatory or a voluntary evacuation, you certainly have to have some buffering with the idea that you have to be very careful to make sure that those people who may be in harm's way do have that anticipatory time and begin to start making that move, or just get about making that move.
Let's bring in 9 News meteorologist Kathy Sabin to give us an idea of how the wind in particular is going to be acting on this fire. Kathy, at this point, it looks like the winds are pushing the fire to the east. That's downhill, so that's going to slow down its movement, but obviously there's homes in every direction.
Yes, and the wind has been picking up in speed and direction, transporting some of that smoke right here into the metro area. The smoke visible up and down the Front Range from the 2 fires that we're talking about this afternoon. Temperatures were up to 95, 96, 97 degrees already. Triple-digit highs out there as well. And the other piece of the forecast picture is the humidity, or lack thereof. Humidity values are running in the single digits. It's been tinder dry out there for more than a day, more than a week, for several weeks now. We're talking about drought conditions around the area. We're talking about excessive heat. And now we're talking about the wind, as Kyle mentioned. And the wind is picking up in speed. speed, and it's continuing to come out of the west and heading toward the east, so taking the smoke and also the flames from both of those fires, the Alexander Mountain and also the blaze north of Lyons, taking that smoke and the flames and pushing those east. So that, I don't know if that's going to be good news or bad news for fire managers in battling this blaze, but I do know that the wind increasing 10, 15, 20, 25 miles per hour, that is not going to help them in their efforts, because that is moving the flames and moving the fire. And the smoke is visible even from downtown Denver all along the Front Range now. So you've got the winds, speeds anywhere from 15 to 20 to 25 miles per hour in and around the Loveland area and the Lyons area. And we're watching that very closely because, as Kyle mentioned, also a downsloping wind is also a warming wind, and the wind can pick up speed as it comes off the foothills and mountains and comes down into the city. And that smoke, that haze, that air, that heat condenses. And so the wind will be a big part of the story here in terms of what we're talking about with the two fires now, the Alexander Mountain and also the blaze north of Lyons. And the wind speeds, again, out of the west, 15 to 25 miles per hour. Humidity values in the single digits. We have poor air quality, as you might imagine, because of the smoke, the haze, but also due to high levels of ozone here at the surface. Fire weather, something that we talk about almost every month out of the year anymore here in Colorado. There is a fire weather warning for the Front Range foothill areas north and west of Denver, covering also the northwestern mountains and portions of northern Colorado. And so areas in and around Lyons and Loveland, west of Fort Collins, Red Feather Lakes, these are areas under the fire weather warning, which means you're looking at tinder dry conditions, extremely hot temperatures, and wind gusts in excess of 20, 25, even 30 miles per hour in the areas shaded in red. Denver at this point not included in this, but where the two fires are burning, we certainly have fire weather conditions. We also have a heat advisory in effect through 8 o'clock tonight. This does include Denver, also includes areas north along I-25 up into the Fort Collins area and just to the south of Cheyenne, down toward Colorado Springs and Pueblo. Again, a heat advisory in effect for temperatures 98 to 101. So again, you're talking about temperatures, you're talking about extreme drought, you're talking about humidity values in the single digits, and now we're talking about a westerly downsloping wind picking up speed from 20 to 25 to 30 miles per hour. And that is certainly something that will be impacting what those fire managers are doing on the ground. As we see over the next few hours, temperatures are trending 95 to 100 degrees in Denver, Lyons, and Loveland. No chance of rain tonight at all, and no reprieve in terms of moisture for fire managers on the ground. So wind and temperature will certainly be big players in terms of the impact that these folks on the ground are dealing with while battling now not one fire up in the Alexander Mountain area, but now this other blaze north of the Lyons area. So, Tom and Kyle, it's the perfect storm of ingredients, if you will, for fire weather, and this is not something that any of us want to see.